I have 6:35 PM on Monday, October 27th. This is the Recreation Committee meeting. I will entertain a motion to open.
I'll make a motion to open the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote to move forward. All aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Let's start the meeting. First, a word to everyone. I had a little bit of a snafu trying to arrange the meeting. I was under the impression that the select board was first and third Mondays every month. It's actually bi-weekly, so in the 5-week month, that created problems. So the first and third became the second and fourth, and oopsie. So the first piece of business is I will take better care to make sure that we are not, we're not impeding the select board or the CPC, which also meets on one of the Mondays a month usually. And so I will make sure that we tap dance so that we're on the off week for all that. I believe, but I will not confirm yet, that the next meeting is going to be December 1 because that appears to be a non-CPC or select board meeting week. I will confirm with everybody and make sure it's good, and then we'll set the right date. So we have the 2025 Trail Enhancement Project status. I have some things to report about that. We've made some good progress, and one of the primary goals of the project was to repair and replace some bridges, particularly at Meadow Pond. One had completely failed and needed some refit. It's not done yet, but we've ordered the appropriate wood and supplies. And my understanding is that things are moving along really nicely. We're making some good progress on it. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to, hang on one moment, Mike Dempsey, who's doing a great job on it, as well as Jim Lafferty, who is essentially the caretaker of the Meadow Pond park, or the trail. And he's been doing a bang up job of trying to engineer and get this, the first bridge one of these bridges. And, we'll start to do a better job of identifying various spots on these trails. So we're calling this bridge one. It's the first bridge that you cross when you come through, and it's the one that's most necessary in the sense that if we had a lot of rain, you'd need some help crossing. But in any event, we've acquired some supplies. We've got some free labor. People are working on the project, and we expect that the bridges in Meadow Pond should be all in a state of being able to be used, I believe, by the end of the month. If not by the end of the month, I'm pretty sure certainly by the next meeting that we have. I will keep everybody posted and updated on that and go from there. Additionally, we've been getting quotes on various of the infrastructure pieces. We're working on that as well. Mike Dempsey has put together a mock-up of what a signpost might look like, and we're going to look at that and try to, one, make sure it's what we want, two, cost it out so we make sure we know exactly what it's going to cost to have 52 or 56 of these things, so that each of the trail posts is the same and we have uniformity for Groveland trails. So we're working on those sorts of things. We have a mock-up in place, and we're kind of kicking that around and seeing if that's going to be what they're going to look like finally or whatnot. But more to come. The trail enhancement project is going forward. We're making progress. We should probably have some photos soon to look at what we're doing, and you can see that progress is being made. And it's not being made at huge dollar expenses. This is a project that is working well. Any questions or anything on the trail enhancement project status?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. The next thing I have on the list is Light Up the Pines 2026 potential CPC project. I've collaborated a little bit with Adam Haywood and Rebecca also as well to talk about what that might look like. We're getting close to the deadline for 2026 submissions, but I do believe we will have a project to put forward to the CPC for this. We're working out the costs and what options might look like, and trying to get a really good read on having accurate budgeting so that we get the money, we spend the money, it's the right amount of money. And, we don't need to come back and ask for more, making sure that the vendors are understanding that these are 2026 prices and things like that. And, as I sort of ramp up my understanding of how municipal purchasing works, because I was a total rookie about it when we were started with this particular project, with the trail enhancement project. I'm learning things like it costs money to get shipping, and it costs money to, and so you can't just necessarily go to Home Depot and buy all this stuff. And there's some requirements and things, and, certain money has come from this particular spot, and certain things have to be purchased from these vendors, but not those vendors. And so there are requirements that are not necessarily things that you would think of as of just common sense. So we are getting up to speed and working together and coming up with what I think will be a very intelligent and fiscally responsible and effective looking project. And so we anticipate putting something forward with the CPC in December. Any additional questions or information or anything about the Pines lighting up project?
I know you had talked about the scope of it started with the other softball field and then maybe the football. And
Right.
there was a little bit of, everybody wants to get in on it. Has there been discussion? I know one of the things we talked about too is the hours that the Pines might play into, like, we might not want to encourage people down there after a certain time,
Sure.
but these lights could be turned off on a timer. So is that seem to be going forward with like the breadth of it, or is it kind of refocusing?
So what I would say is that everything is still amorphous, and so far as there's not a final, this is how it's going to be.
Mhm.
But my take on it is a couple of things. I was just watching the news before I came here, and I heard that when daylight savings time switches over, we will have sunset in December at 4:11 p.m.
Mhm.
And I thought, that stinks. So what I don't imagine that the idea with this light up the Pines business is that we have, daylight beacon from 4 p.m. to 11, right? What I imagine is the idea is that we have the functionality to have lights for events, and that they won't be just sort of generally on, but for, in conjunction with, say they're the people who do the pickleball in the evening talk to the town, and the town says, yeah, it's okay to have the pickleball lights on these days for the, so
Mhm.
I don't think it's just like we would set them on a timer and then it'd be a free for all. I think that the concept here is that you have lights for specific purposes. So yes, everybody is piggybacked onto, oh yeah, we would like lights. Like, so there's a basketball court, and there's the pickleball courts, and there's the football
Mhm.
folks. And so having the functionality so we can say as a town, thumbs up, we can do this,
Mhm.
is something that I think, sort of hits the goal of, we want to take these assets we have and we want to make them, more usable, and we want to have more options to do, more things.
Mhm.
And it sounds to me, and I have to get a little more body around it, I had heard initially that you could, have the lights set up so that they change all different colors. And so like at Pumpkin Fest, say, or, Groveland Day, you can have, you can really, sort of add the, have a real added atmosphere kind of, vibe going, right? The first level of looking at actual numbers seems to indicate that the cost of doing that is pretty extensive versus the benefit that it would provide. So it seems like that might be a no-go. There's more investigation before we're putting up a plan, but I think, it's more along the lines of having the functionality to do this stuff. Where we have big sports lighting,
Mhm.
it's older, and so it's less efficient than what the current, options are in the, in the universe. And so what I like is the idea of doing it kind of in one fell swoop, so that everything is uniform and that we get economies of scale.
Mhm.
So that, if you do a little bit here and a little bit there, and then some in 26 and some in 27, all of a sudden the costs go far up, because you're not, and your infrastructure is, different from year to year
Mhm.
potentially. So like, again, like uniformity and cost savings based on doing everything kind of at once. And then the pickleball people are happy, the softball people are happy, the football people are happy. And there's also like revenue that's going to come in from all this, you know, like if the foot, I've heard that the football folks are willing to kick in some money on some of this because they're renting generators to do this right now. And so there are benefits to town that come from this as well. So it's not just a money suck.
That was going to be a question I have is in
Yeah.
terms of actually covering the cost of electricity and understanding the electrical costs, et cetera, like who would be, paying for that and how would
Right.
we go?
Well, so there's a couple thoughts about it. One is, we're pretty undercharging on like permit fees and things like that. And so, whoever uses has to pay a permit fee. And so getting those maybe more in line with what, that could be one thing, but also, having the users pay for their special uses. The town will probably finance, some of the functionality of it, and it'll benefit everybody in a sort of uniform kind of way. But the primary thing is, no, I don't see blazing light, until 11 o'clock PM every night, and things like that. And I mean, the technology has a much reduced cost of operation. So you're saving costs there as well versus, sort of the old technology and things like that. And so the idea is that it should be comprehensive, but we're going to be intelligent about, not overspending for, fun little functionalities that are maybe, way more bell and whistle and a lot less substance. So those are the sort of behind the scenes discussions that are going on right now, along with, talking to various vendors and saying, okay, this is the project, this is the thing you can get. Groveland Light says we'll put up some posts, and so like it is definitely a situation where we're trying to leverage the assets we have and where possible, volunteerism and things like that. So, that's something that we've always got our minds on and, trying to make it, because I think we have a responsibility in spending Groveland's money to be responsible about how we spend it. And it's not just a blank check to go just do whatever you want to do. It's, let's be accountable to the people of town and do things that are helpful and fun and good, but also cost effective and, not wasteful. So anything else on Light Up the Pines?
Nope.
Future CPC projects. We are running low on time because December is the month, and for things to start to get finalized and whatnot. If we are doing anything else or proposing anything else as a board or I'm sorry, as a committee, the next meeting, which I think is December 1, is probably going to be the last time. So if in the meantime, anybody thinks of anything or, has an idea and wants to press forward on it, just reach out to me. We'll talk about it. We'll try to get it. We'll try to meet about it on December 1, and then we could put it forward for the CPC in December. But we'd be on a little bit of a shoestring. So keep your eyes open. Think about what you might think about. There is money to spend on worthwhile projects. So that's what I have there. Any thoughts?
You had mentioned that we might need a second phase of the trail enhancement. Is that something you're anticipating we'll have to put together?
Yeah. So what I envision about that is I think we way under budgeted on what the cost of the benches was going to be. Most of the other things I think fit well within what we've got. And honestly, I think based on the cost savings of even just like lumber and stuff, I think we could probably squeeze everything into the current budget. But I have a little bit of a reticence about taking 80% of the money that we said 80% was going to be on lumber, and now 80% is on benches, but 20% is on something else. I feel like I would want the people of Groveland to have a say so about, hey, listen, is this too much on benches? And what I say about that, my pitch about it is, listen, yes, you can get a very cheap bench and whatever, but like the idea is we want things that will match what's out there. And so we have the rail trail, which, looks great and is, going really well that way. Oh, one other thing on the rail trail, got an update on the enhancement project, got an update on the big bellies. Those are going in January is the latest information. So it won't be in calendar year 2025, but it should be early in 2026. But the goal and concept is to match what we have that is nice and, have things that last. And so you do it once, you do it right, and then you don't have to do it again for a long time. And so I've had discussions with Arthur, with highway department and whatnot. And we talked about it a little bit, and Rebecca, of course, and we've talked about how, concrete footings for these benches. So, like they're going to stay. And, so there's work to be done and whatnot. And it's not always cheap, but again, in the situation where we weigh, is the juice worth the squeeze in this particular situation? And with the infrastructure for the trails, it would be my impression based on what I've seen that it is, so like a little bit of extra functionality on the lights for a lot extra cost, that's a different thing. And so, when we weigh these things, you use the same process and sometimes you come out this way and sometimes you come out that way. So, so that was what was going on in with the idea. I think it's my preference to put forward a second phase to be, hey, listen, this is just the benches. We're going to do this. And there are some other ancillary things that we didn't really talk about in the first proposal. So maybe doing some GPS tagging of the posts so we know, so like this we know is here. And so when we do mapping and we do trail maps, our trail maps are accurate. So folks that are on, in the Center Street Greenway area, like it's a little wild out there. So, you would want to know where you are, and maybe it's, a quarter mile to where you want to be. And, that's different than if it's, 200 yards. And so there may be some things along those lines in addition to this benches issue that I want to resolve and, give the people of town a chance to say thumbs up or thumbs down. But that's where that's at. I do envision a second piece of that because of this. I'm going to speak with the folks of the CPC in our next meeting, which is coming up, and discuss about what their sort of preference is on that issue.
I think that makes sense. One thing I was thinking of randomly this week with the trails is I think technically the rail trail is part of the community trail. It actually starts here at Town Hall and is like goes along Main Street until you get to the rail trail. I don't know if that is actually, I remember that was the paper proposal back then. I don't know if that, obviously there's nothing, it's just a sidewalk. I didn't know if there was ever any thought to especially like the one-way part of Main Street, like you could imagine that being a nicer, like wider bikeway and stuff, or at the very least signage from the Shanahan parking lot, which I mean, I know they're putting in the parking spots right at that end on Main Street. But that's a great, I mean, it's only a 1/10 of a mile down and there's so much parking, which was a great CPA project. But if there's any sort of like little extension, like a map or a signage trail this way kind of thing to make that all part, and that's sort of one of our goals of enhancing the river, then that walk along the river there on Main Street, the one-way section is nice. And like treating that as part of the trail at some point. It might not be as part of 2026, but it might be something to look forward to.
No, I mean, the idea, the sort of emerald necklace concept, right? That I do think based on, my discussions with Mike Dempsey and, reading the materials about the master plan and things of that nature, I do think there is, desire and efficacy of having, it be an interconnected set of trails all throughout ultimately. And so I think as we start to, piece together, okay, this is what a Groveland, signpost looks like. And so that, whenever you see one of these, you're on one of the trails. And then all of a sudden, if these trails start to get, a little more managed and a little more, sort of squared away, so then I say, okay, well, Meadow Pond is kind of done for now-ish. And, so how do we connect Meadow Pond to, something else? And so, I think in the sort of tiered addressing of various things, I sort of prioritize, wow, we got to get these 6 trails, sort of fixed up.
Agreed.
And then I think, okay, now that they're fixed up and now we have uniform maps and now we have, we have mileage markers and now we have, GPS marking. So we know that you can look on your phone and you could be like, oh, okay, I'm here and I need to be at post 17, like once the functionality starts to improve. And I mean, I look at this as a multi-year project. And so as it's getting better, then, then I do think we can spread out a little bit. And I do think it makes sense to do some of this other stuff. But you're right. Like, technically the trail is Main Street, which is a sidewalk. And so, like you head up this way and you can get to that.
And they talk about connecting to Haverhill's trails and
right. No, exactly.
There's all like, I know there's connections to the West Newbury trails up in the town forest. So it's like, you could see, cross town stuff. But again, I think let's focus on the pieces we have now.
And when I went down and we walked these trails, I went to the rail trail, and the rail trail has a good sort of nub to connect with Georgetown, which can head in back, eventually you're getting to Boston, and so it's a situation where like these interconnected trails can continue to get better and better. I know Haverhill is doing work along the river on their side, and so they had a big project. I think it was this or last summer, and so like things are happening and it's getting better. And as we put our fingers on this and start to put a little money into the infrastructure piece of it, and sort of think of it holistically as one set of things, I think we're going to make progress. And I think it's going to be a situation where people are going to have a lot more usability. One thing that we're going to be able to do, I think, out of this particular project is connect the rail trail to the Center Street Greenway. And it's tricky because there's a place where you need to place a bridge and there's no bridge there. And it's not a massive bridge, but at the same point, we've sort of scoped out where it would go, and there's some permitting and things that need to happen. There's some, like there are some other pieces. You can't just throw up a bridge where you feel like it, even if you've got the people who've got the chops to make it. Yeah. So, I do think in the budget, in the 2025 allocation, I think we will be able to make a connection so that, the rail trail, which is by far the most used in town, will actually directly connect to one of our other trails. And so, to your point, I think it's really important that we start, linking these things up so that, people who are really interested in getting around from here to there and not worrying about cars so much, have the opportunity to do it. One thing I'll reiterate is just the trails are very varied. Town forest is very different than Meadow Pond, is very different than the Greenway, is very different than the rail trail. And so, each of these trails has like sort of different attributes and drawbacks, and so suit different folks. The Merrimack River Trail is very steady. It's very great. It's very even graded. But Town Forest, you're coming up hills and going down hills and things like that. And then in Meadow Pond, it's, kind of marshy. So, bring your bug spray and, and maybe a machete to cut through some of the stuff. I mean, so each place is a little bit different and requires some different treatment. And, but we're wrapping our heads around it and we're making some progress. And by doing the stuff, it also sort of yields this is the next thing we can do. Right. And so you're going to see some little things, and then before you know it, you're going to see some bigger things. And it's all, geared toward improvement, and it hasn't been super expensive yet. And, it's just mostly people putting time and effort on it and having kind of a unified push on it. So I did talk about the idea of having MOW Vember for, a couple of these overgrown trails, areas. So I'll be talking to some of the folks that, handle that, but like I was telling you earlier, Jim has done a bang up job of, kind of jumping onto the scene at Meadow Pond. We've got people at VZ that are very, invested. And so the idea is hopefully we can get some folks to take some ownership of each of these trails. So people of Groveland, if you have interest in, being a caretaker of, say Town Forest or the Merrimack River Trail or, some of those things, that would be super helpful, and reach out to any of us. Certainly, we're always happy to take some volunteerism, and, we can point you in the direction where you can do some good work.
A question on that. So
Yes.
you mentioned the variation in the trails, right? And the different characteristics. Is there anywhere that shows that variation or talks about like how technical a trail is or the level of difficulty today?
Yeah, we don't have any of that.
Okay.
And, it's a super good point, because it's something that we would like to have, because
Maybe on the signage.
no, for sure, 100%. Like on the maps, I think,
Right.
is,
Yeah.
so one of the things that is lacking and that we really need to address and figure out how we're going to do is accurate mapping that looks good, is clear, and, helps a person who walks up to a kiosk and says, okay, what this is about, and so, it's a mile and a half, okay,
Mhm.
one way out,
Mhm.
maybe I better prepare for that or whatever, and so, I think it's important. I think it's something we should definitely be trying to get to, and, it makes all the sense in the world. So
Mhm.
as we continue to pitch what's next, I think that would be a high priority to me.
Right.
So folks know, this is suited to me, or this is not suited to me,
Mhm.
I wonder if the GPS things you mentioned on the trail posts, if we can get elevation. Yeah, altitude, because sometimes it's like,
right.
this is like a 250-foot elevation gain. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not talking mountains here,
Right.
but like Town Forest, there are some
Yeah.
steeper trails, and you could do stuff like recommended hikes. I mean,
Right.
again, not a huge system, but there are 4 or 5 trails in Town Forest. You could say, hey, you could do this loop that does this, and
Right.
this.
And paved versus
Oh, yeah.
muddy versus rocky versus a
Mhm.
nice
Right.
dirt path are totally different
Yeah.
scale, right?
Right. And I mean, we've discussed the idea of potentially trying to make like a paved bike path, like a bike path only, like, so it's some concrete, but not a lot, in some of the places. Like, so there's a lot of this kind of brainstorming idea, but in the meantime, there are front burner,
Mhm.
we are doing boots on ground
Yeah.
stuff now.
Right.
And so, like, we are always interested in what the town folk think, and what,
Mhm.
you hear this and you're like, I would really like this, reach out. It's super helpful when we get feedback, and, you like what's going on, you don't like what's going on, you think something should be different, speak up, and that will help us in our, decision making, deciding what to do. But what I will say is, based on where we were and where we're going, things are improving, and at a very shoestring budget. And so it'd be hard to be disappointed about, the bridge being repaired for, maybe, these bridges to be repaired for less than $2,000, and in a way that they're going to be able to last for, a decade or more.
Mhm.
Right. So, the first piece of it is making sure everything is usable. And then after that, like adding amenities, benefits, features, things like that.
So
So
maybe as we get like the new maps, maybe we can talk to the town about the website, maybe add some of those
100%.
notes
Right.
about the trails and stuff to
Right.
say, hey, here's the,
Yeah.
the Merrimack River Trail is nice and flat and wide.
Right. Here-
Well, and it abuts, it abuts, the Groveland Commons,
Mhm.
so, one of the things that I noted was that just about every of these trails has a large group of folks that, it could be well served by
Mhm.
it. So, there's the new development going up over by over by Meadow Pond. And so, the idea that folks over there, will really take advantage of the trail that abuts their home,
Mhm.
and so, Town Forest has a similar situation, there's, And like you said, the Merrimack River Trail is certainly right by Groveland Common.
Mhm.
So it is, it's definitely that way. And I do think of this as, the more information we can provide in a way that helps people use these things. It's good for the folks. It's good for, it looks, it shows off the town. It's a win-win all around. So I'm big on it. Any other discussion on this issue for today? Nope. This does dovetail into open space and recreation. So certainly that, anything that we're thinking about open space and recreation?
I guess, what does that entail?
Well, what do you think it entails? So, it is amorphous, right? And so it can mean different things at different times. And, so to me, when I think open space, I think the trails. I sit down and I think, people getting out into the fresh air,
Right.
experiencing what the town has to offer, going in and, heading into some of these
Or the
areas.
fields. or
Yeah, for
something.
sure, 100%. And
Yeah.
so, go to Easy, right? That's open
Right.
space,
Mhm.
and recreation. Well, the Pines is really getting pumped up. The skate park, I think, is supposed to be full bore going forward. People love the pickleball courts that are new.
Yeah.
All the things that have been, all the work that's been pumped into that recently has been great. And so, I think it's open to interpretation. And I think
Gotcha.
the idea of, you come up with something, you think, oh, what, it fits in that category. We can make a project, or we can talk about how we can help people who are interested in it. Open space also feels like the Bagnall Garden, which looks great now. Like
Mhm.
the difference in a year is out of this world.
Right.
I know Stephanie Sealing had really taken lead on it, and got some help from folks and got some support, and that place that was utterly unusable now is like a field trip for the
Mhm.
kids at the school, and everybody's kind of taken some ownership of it. So it's been an awesome project that has, again, not been super expensive.
Right.
It's just people cared and tried and worked together and made it into something that already 1 year through, it's so much better.
Right.
I think there are plans right now over by Perry Park also that,
Mhm.
where that's something that's going to be better. They're talking about art installations and some things
Right.
along that,
More of a
so
passive
Right.
recreation as opposed to the Pines.
sure, which is very active
Yeah,
recreation,
so
right,
it's nice to have that.
Yeah.
So a question then, I guess, if it's open
Yeah.
to discussion, some things that could help generate revenue for the town, right? Because that's obviously important to us, helps our taxes, et cetera. I think fits squarely in the, or can fit in the open space and recreation. Just a thought. So other towns, do have different things like different fairs or different, what was it? Georgetown had something. It was their first fair. They had food and beer and all different kinds of stuff, right, at one of their new developments over there. Those kinds of things, or also just like maker fairs, things of that nature. How do we start to see, how we can do more of that?
Well-
Markets, et cetera.
Well, I think projects like lighting up the Pines,
Mhm.
invites that situation, right? I was at Pumpkin Fest just the other day, right? And it was a little bit dark. And, I thought,
Right.
if we had our lights up, I think it would be a lot more of an inviting situation and things like that.
Yeah.
And, like Groveland Day, those sorts of things that
Right.
already get done. But yeah, enhancing the venues.
Right.
There's a project now at that looks like it's going to come forward at Shanahan Field for new bathrooms,
Mhm.
right? And so it's been a sort of Band-Aid situation there to
Mhm.
date. And to have something that's more permanent and better,
Mhm.
much more usable, better capacity, more capacity, sturdier infrastructure, all that stuff. And I think even just the way it would be connected to the town utilities
Mhm.
is set up to be better. So I
Mhm.
look at, I really agree with what you're saying. And I say, okay, well, could Shanahan Park host something? you
Right,
know,
that's what I'm
and
saying,
so,
with even what we
well,
have
if
today.
now it's got parking and
Right.
now we've got, you know, restrooms and all of a sudden, you know, like
Mhm.
you have a much more usable area. I will say that, you know, I am involved in Groveland Youth Soccer and I will say that, the parking, now people by and large aren't parking on the side anymore. It's way safer than it
Mhm.
was. And it looks better and it's, you know, it's much more organized as far as how it is. And the parking capacity has been very good.
Right.
We also were there for the 4th of July. So again, you know, your point about, can we use this stuff? And I say, yes, we should. And
So how do we go about that? Like, for example, having, you know, in Bradford, they have farmers markets, right? We also have plenty of folks nearby, right, and around that would probably participate in things like farmers market. And
Mhm.
with vendor stands, usually there's some income from that too, right?
Yeah.
Or again, not just farmers markets, but makers markets, et cetera. And even just here, right, we have the giant field and at Groveland Day, we have that same kind of
Mhm.
strip set up.
Yeah.
But maybe we could make that a more common thing as opposed to once a year, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think it probably starts by going to talk to Rebecca, you know, and
Okay.
say, hey, listen, you know, here's my idea. This is what I'd look for, you know, maybe reach out to a select board member or two and say, you know, hey, I've been thinking about this.
Mhm.
And, you know, I agree with the idea. But every idea needs someone to grab it. And so like, we can brainstorm about things, but until someone takes ownership, they don't usually happen. So that's why, like, you know, I sit there and I praise, you know, Stephanie Sealing, and I say, she went and grabbed this project and did it, and then it got done, and now it looks great. And so, you know, you sit there and you say, okay, well, for every one of these things that, you know, is going to be a regular thing, for Pumpkin Fest, you know, there's a committee.
Yep.
And the committee makes sure that things get done. And, you know, I know
Right.
Annie has taken a ton of ownership of
Mhm.
that, and it's better for her having done it. And so, you know, the idea is if you really have a yen for something,
Mhm.
you jump on it, you
Right.
take ownership of it, and you push it forward. You know, I kind of got roped into the trail enhancement program, and guess
Yeah.
what? Now it's going to be mine for the next 5 years. So, you know, like, but the point is, everybody does something,
Yep.
and we're all better for it. And so, you just have to kind of find, okay, well, how much time do I have to dedicate? And,
Right.
you know, what really, you know, fires me up, and,
Yeah.
you know, like, and how can I get it from, you know, nothing to something? And so I say, if you've got something in your brain, I say, go for it.
Gotcha.
And we have such good partners in town now, you know, Rebecca and Annie are awesome. And, you
Mhm.
know, and the select board members, you know, to a person, are pretty approachable and,
Mhm.
you know, happy to talk about things. And so one of the nice things about living in a small town is that you know, you get to know your neighbors.
Mhm.
And what I've learned here, and I've only been here a couple of years, but what I've learned here is folks really do care. And if you know, you grab somebody by the shoulder and start talking to them, that they'll,
Yep.
you know, they'll step up.
Mhm.
And so I think you'll find a lot of support if you take a project and you want to make it your own.
Yeah, understood there. I think that, finding some folks too that would, you know, be interested in doing a farmers makers or whatever it is market, right? And if there's again, a way for us as a town to work with that or bring an income
Yeah.
for that, right? Whether we
Yeah.
rent the space out, et cetera.
No, I think it's a great idea. And I think plenty of towns around us do it. There's no reason, there's no impediment to, you know, some of these things. And the better we make these facilities through CPC projects and things like that, and, you know,
Federal
extra,
support.
you know, that just makes all the venues better.
Mhm.
You know, someday we got to get ourselves you know, like a community center, like a senior center or something along those lines. That's something that's in the master plan, something that's talked about. So, you know, like, what I envision is at some point we have a building that's a place where people can congregate and do various things. And, you know, the more functionality, the better.
Right.
But, you know, it's one thing at a time, and, you know,
Mhm.
everybody's got to have the bandwidth to handle the projects that they do. What I hate to see is if someone's super excited about something and then disappears for the next year and doesn't push it forward. And then, you know, this great idea turns into an albatross.
Right.
So, but but when everybody carries a little, then, it's lighter work for everybody is how it works.
Yeah.
So but 100%, and it's one of the sort of fundamental premises that I kind of came on with was, well, gosh, we should be able to get revenue from these
Right.
really good assets in addition to, having things.
We
that
have all
people
these
from
nice
town-
things, let's use them.
Yeah, for
more or
sure.
less, Right.
Anything else on open space and recreation?
I don't have anything.
Nope.
Recruitment of additional members. So, I mean, I am happy that we have recruited the two of you recently. So that gives us a quorum and me not just speaking to the people of town of Groveland just by myself, which is great.
Mhm.
And the two of you provided really good assistance and help, and I'm really appreciative of it. I know Steve's been doing a fantastic job with minutes. A side point that I probably should have said at the very, very beginning is the reason that, hang on one second. Bear with me just one moment. The reason that we're not a full committee today is that Michelle has a brand new child, William Hespelian, joined her family on 10/18. So congratulations to mom and child.
Congratulations.
And so you're very much excused from this meeting. And we will sympathize with you and say that we hope you get good sleep in the next 6 months. At some point.
We have our
But
newest member.
well, we'll see, but yeah, that's definitely, I'm happy with the way the membership has improved. We lost a member based on some town requirements and things of that nature. It was unfortunate because it was a good member. But he serves us on our select board, and that's a pretty important spot for him to be. So we'll continue to keep our eyes open for folks who want to help. And to anyone watching, out in the world out there, we're happy to have an additional. I think we are one full-time member shy, and I think we have room for one or two alternates. I believe it's at least one.
At least one, yeah.
So we definitely have bandwidth for one or two more members, and we would love to have more voices, more, in this situation, more cooks make a better broth. That's not always the case, but here it's been great. On that note, we'll move on to approval of the meeting minutes. Steve did a great job sending the meeting minutes out. I will hear a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
I will second that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting minutes of September 22, 2025 are hereby approved. On minutes, I did a little bit of work myself, and since I've been on the board, it looks like June 26, 24, July 31, 24, August 21, 24, and September 25, 24 are meetings that we had that do not as of yet have minutes. I will go and endeavor to create those minutes, and we will figure out how they get improved because neither of you were available for any of those meetings. I believe Michelle was available for those meetings, so I'm not exactly sure how we achieve quorum for meeting with two members. That seems like a question for Rebecca, but the point of the matter is we will get meeting minutes for those missing meetings. And then for 2025, the only meeting minutes missing is the July 28, 2025 meeting. So I will also get those together.
That wasn't technically a full meeting.
It wasn't technically a full meeting, but stuff was discussed.
Sure.
And so I will at least put some information on that. So I see on my to-do list 5 sets of meeting minutes, and then we will be up to snuff with the exception of the minutes for today, which I believe Steve is offered to.
I will.
All right.
I will do-
I believe we have a
Minutes for today.
meeting minute writer. And then I can do my part and carry a little bit of water on the old stuff, and then we'll be up to snuff, and we'll make sure that everything is posted online, and so that everybody has access to all the information that's fit to print. Anything else on meeting minutes? Okay, future agenda items and planning. Anybody have anything that we want to talk about that we haven't been talking about? you're not on the spot. You can also come up with this stuff later and reach out to me and we'll get these issues on the agenda. I do, again, I will say that I will do my darndest to make sure that we are jockeying our Monday meeting away from the select board and CPC meetings. So I will try to find the sweet spot of that Monday that is not occupied by the other stuff to make sure that it is our stuff. I believe the next target date is December 1. Any items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting?
A question about the Groveland Day and other things, because that has its own committee, right?
It does.
So that does not fall under recreation whatsoever.
Well, again, so the thing that's nice about what's happening in Groveland government, for lack of a better word, is the left hand and the right hand are talking now. And so it's not this insular thing where the Groveland Day Committee just goes like this and doesn't want to hear anything.
Right.
The people that are involved, you can look up online and see who's in, and reaching out to folks is not prohibited. So and I have never in all the time I've been here reached out to someone and they said, not your job, get away from me. Like, everybody is pretty receptive, and the people that volunteer the time and their effort are really doing a swell yeoman's work, right? And so if you have an idea for Groveland Day or Pumpkin Fest and you think, gosh, this would be great for 2026, you should reach out to the people that are on the current committee.
More of just having an understanding of what is happening, when it's happening, et cetera, for each of these different events, and ultimately rolling it up into some sort of agenda or something that.
Well, so that probably falls on me to a certain extent, and I've not been awesome at it because Groveland Day came and went, and Pumpkin Fest came and went. But again, this is we're sort of ramping up now, and so it's a very fair point. And thinking about what's the next thing is something like. It is within our purview to be addressing these issues because this is, Groveland Day and, Pumpkin Fest are recreation defined, right? So I definitely think we have a role. I definitely think we have a place. We've had a booth at Groveland Day in the past. And so I would want to do that again in the future.
Right.
So for 2026, say, it'd be awesome if we would have full on maps for these 6 things that look great and are, the next upgrade of what we currently have, which, so there's a lot of coming together as far as, these various folks, and I am receptive to everything.
Yeah, that was kind of the thought, is just having us and them come together to understand the events a bit more and how, the rec can help.
And we're not, there's nothing preventing us from asking someone from the committee to come to one of our meetings and, present, and so, that's, 100% on the table. And so, anyone in town that has something that they want to pitch, we're a happy conduit to get to the people that need to be gotten to see if it can be done. And so we have good connections with, the town administration. We have good connections with the select board. So you have a voice, and the, each of us has a voice, and, certainly, there's nothing preventing us from talking to these people, but certainly everyone in town, it's the same deal. I am all about, getting together and making sure people are on the same page. I think that's something that in the past was lacking and now has really become a little bit of a strength of the various committees. I think finance talks to select board, talks to planning, talks to, and I do not feel as though this committee is a paper tiger. I think we definitely have a voice. We definitely have an ability to influence and, push things forward that we think will be good for the folks in town. Any items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting?
I don't have anything.
Good here.
Yeah. So in the interim, if there's anything that you want to get on the next meeting, either of you, and that goes for you too, Michelle. please reach out. We'll get it on. And the reason we always have the items not reasonably anticipated is it's catch-all in case there's something that kind of comes up. Oh, gee, I wish I had said this. Well, now you don't have to wait. And so, I am open to it. I'm interested in it. And for now, tentatively, December 1, 2025 is the next meeting. If that's good for everybody.
Actually.
We'll take a quick look. I'll look as well.
It's the Monday after Thanksgiving, right?
To be the case. It is.
I should be good for that.
Okay. We're gonna say tentatively.
That should be good too. Yeah.
Put a note 6:30. I will reach out. I will make sure we're not conflicted. And if we are, I will reach out and let you know what the next option is.
Yeah. I mean, I would have availability other days of the week. I don't know if we're just designated to Mondays.
We try to. I also can, we can make it work. So if
I know you have other committees, boards to
well, that's
join
right.
too.
Right. I can't make a meeting that conflicts with CPC. We'll say that.
Mhm.
And Tuesday and every other Tuesday is not quite good for me. But yeah, so if there's a problem or a conflict, again, this is, that's one of the nice things about this being a 4-person board currently and not a 40-person board. We can definitely work it around and, make sure that, and I feel very strongly that we should be able to have it on Zoom, and sorry about today not being in Zoom. But like I said, we will iron out the kinks as we do this, and I am here to take full responsibility for my role in not doing everything perfect. But we're working, we're coachable, we're getting better. Anything else that anyone has?
Yeah, was it 6:30, right?
6:30, yes.
Good, same time.
So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting
Second.
at 7:27.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? None, hearing none. All in favor of closing the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the meeting is closed at 7:27 PM on Monday, October 27, 2025. Have a happy Halloween, everyone, and be safe, please. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, guys.